Lightroom has limited capabilities when it comes to framing your image. You can add black or white borders to your image in the print module, but that's about it. There are third-party applications such as On1 Software's Photo Frame that will apply a variety of frame effects, but that means shelling out some extra money. Luckily, Photoshop allows you to add effects to the edges of your image. In this video, I'll show you some simple Photoshop techniques to add frame-like effects to your image. I'll also show you how to extend the edges of your image for when you need to change the aspect ratio of your image and there aren't enough image pixels to do it properly. Let's start by bringing an image to be framed into Photoshop from Lightroom. I'll right-click on the image in Lightroom and select Edit in Photoshop CC. Once in Photoshop, I choose my rectangular selection tool from the toolbar, and I make a selection near the edge of my image. Next, I'll select Refine Edge from the options bar. This opens up the Refine Edge dialog box. Here I select View on White. Next, I move the Edge Detection Radius slider to the right. You should see the edges break apart. You can fine-tune the effect by clicking and dragging the Adjust Edge sliders. The effect will be different depending on the content of the image. With images that have detailed edges, the effect is more pronounced. When you have an edge you like, then under Output 2, select Layer Mask and then click OK. Now flatten the layer by selecting Layer Flatten from the Layer palette and you're done. At this point, if you decide you want to expand the color background, simply select Image, Canvas Size, change the measurement to percentage, and enter, say, 100% into both the width and height boxes. Make sure Relative is selected and your anchor is set to the middle. You can choose a canvas extension color with the pop-up menu at the bottom of the dialog window. How's that for easy? Okay, if that was easy, here's an even easier way of adding a traditional-looking frame to your image in Photoshop. I'm going to go back to Lightroom, get another picture here that I'll frame in Photoshop. I'll right-click, Edit in Photoshop CC. That opens up this image in Photoshop. Go to the Actions palette by choosing Window, Actions from the window bar. In the Actions palette, find the pre-made action that ships with Photoshop CC called Wood Frame. Play the action by clicking the Play selection button at the bottom of the Actions palette. There's nothing else to do. Photoshop does the rest. As you can see, the result is a wood-like frame. It sets the image off and gives it some depth. You can alter the color of the frame by selecting the frame layer and double-clicking on the word Effects. This brings up the Effects dialog box. Go to the Color Overlay section and select a new color. Use the opacity slider to blend the color with the underlying texture and then click OK. There are lots of other more complicated ways to create frames in Photoshop. I just wanted to show you a few of the really simple ways. Okay, now let's see how to realistically extend the edges of your image. I'm going to change the aspect ratio of an image shot with a portrait orientation to one that has a landscape orientation. First, I need to go from Lightroom to Photoshop using the Edit link. Once in Photoshop, I double-click on my layer and change it from a background layer to a normal layer. You can select OK without naming the layer, but you can also type in a new layer name if you want. Then I extend my canvas by choosing Image, Canvas Size. In the Canvas Size dialog box, I'll change my units to percentage and then enter 100% in the width and height boxes. I'll check Relative and make sure my anchor is set in the middle. Click OK. Next, I'm going to use the Crop tool to crop to the landscape orientation. I now have transparent areas on either side of my image. Next, I select the Magic Wand tool from the toolbar and click on the transparent area of my image. To select both transparent areas, hold the Shift key when you make your selection. Finally, I select Edit, Fill, and in the Fill dialog box, I make sure Content Aware is selected. I click OK, and Photoshop fills in the blank areas and extends the edges. The results can vary depending on the image you're working with. If you don't get the result you want, either use Command-Control-Z or go back a step in the History palette. Now in the menu bar, choose Select, Modify, Expand, and Add 10 pixels. This will extend your selection into the image area, and sometimes this will help Content-Aware Fill do a better job. You can also use the Clone Stamp tool and other editing tools to clean up areas that need it. I think this is pretty amazing. Don't you?